If your entire year had to be reduced to just 5 outcomes, what would they be? Not goals you hope to achieve, not activities you plan to attempt, but outcomes that must happen. Most people struggle to answer that question, and that difficulty reveals something important. Without defined outcomes, everything in life starts competing equally. Every opportunity, every request, every idea, every responsibility, all of it pulls on your attention at the same time. And without a governing structure, your time slowly becomes fragmented. This is why the first step in building a personal operating system is defining what I call arenas. Not goals, arenas. Arenas are the areas of life where you are truly accountable for results. The areas where outcomes actually matter. For many people, these arenas naturally fall into a few categories: career or platform, wealth and financial stability, health and physical capability, faith and family, leadership or long-term impact. The exact names don't matter. What matters is clarity. You don't need 10 arenas. You don't need 12 categories. In fact, the more categories you create, the weaker the system becomes. Most effective operating systems function best with 3 to 5 arenas. That's enough to capture the major responsibilities of life, without creating confusion about what actually matters. Because there's a simple truth most people eventually discover. If everything is an arena, nothing actually is. Once you define your arenas, the next step becomes even more important. You must define outcomes inside each one. And this is where many people drift without realizing it. Instead of defining outcomes, they define effort. They say things like, I'll work harder this year. I'll be more consistent. I'll try to be more present. But those statements describe activity, not outcomes. They describe intention, not responsibility. Real outcomes sound different. They answer 3 specific questions. First, what does winning actually look like in this arena? Second, how will you measure it? And third, what are you willing to say no to in order to protect it? Because every outcome that becomes non-negotiable requires a trade-off. And that's where real clarity begins. The next step is where discipline truly appears. You must reduce until the list feels tight. If you create 20 non-negotiables, you haven't actually created any. Because a system that protects everything protects nothing. Constraint is what creates power. When you choose 5 outcomes, you're not just defining priorities. You're also defining what will not compete. You're deciding which distractions won't earn your time, which opportunities won't make the cut, which activities will be filtered out. And that decision is what gives your operating system strength. Because once those outcomes are declared, your decision-making process changes. Opportunities become easier to evaluate. Energy becomes directional. Disappointment becomes contextual. Instead of asking yourself, should I do this? You begin asking a better question. Does this serve what I've declared? And that question quietly transforms the way you operate. Because now your life isn't being driven by urgency. It's being governed by clarity. And clarity has a powerful effect. It reduces noise. It sharpens decisions. And it helps you protect the things that actually matter. So here's a simple reflection. If this year had to be reduced to just 5 outcomes, what would they be? And more importantly, what is currently competing with them? Because the moment you answer that question honestly, you're no longer drifting. You're building your system. And if you want more ideas about building better systems for leadership, decisions, and personal growth, consider subscribing. Because the way we operate determines the results we produce. And the right system can change everything.